Is he out there?" whispered one of the criers. Ava shook her head and opened the door a little wider. Everything was still silent, even the two girls who were huddled behind her. She pulled on the door until she was able to fit her head through. Footsteps sounded from the hallway, one heavy, plodding step after the next. They echoed in the empty corridor. Ava turned toward the noise. The man wore all black leathers and brandished a rifle. He also had 2 pistols attached to his belt. He hadn't seen her yet. Ava needed to step back into the bathroom, but something stopped her. She knew the man. His gaze locked on hers. "Ava." Her blood went cold. "I've been looking for you." She swallowed. "Get away from me!" He laughed, then aimed his weapon at her. Ava ducked back in and pushed on the door. "Someone help me!" The 2 girls scurried into a stall. "Help, Riker!" Ava cried. The gunman pushed on the door. Riker ran out from the stall and shoved his shoulder against the door. Ava had never been happier to see a linebacker in her life. But even with the 2 of them pushing on the door, it still moved in toward them. "Ava, give up before your friends die," shouted the gunman. Riker turned to her wide-eyed. "You know him?" Her stomach twisted in knots. She couldn't bring herself to admit the truth. "Give yourself up and nobody else has to die." Riker continued staring at her, his face paling. "Is he really going to kill us if you don't go out there?" Ava's stomach lurched. Her nose throbbed. The bathroom spun around her. "Ava!" Something tapped the door. It was probably the rifle. Riker stepped back. "Sorry." He fled back to his stall. The door burst open. Ava stumbled back. She tripped over her bag and clung to a sink to keep from falling. Her mother's ex-boyfriend entered the bathroom and knitted his brows together. Ava's knees shook as she stared at the gunman. "What are you doing here, Dave?" His nostrils flared. "You won't be the one asking questions. Does this have to do with my mom?" Dave stepped toward her and shoved the gun against her chest. Ava screamed. Terror. Captain Nick Fleshman slunk into his chair and rubbed his temples. He usually stayed out of the interrogation room, but the suspect had worn down his best guys. And now he'd worn out Nick, too. All he wanted to do was go back home and climb into bed for a few hours. Or maybe he could at least take a long lunch. Instead, all hell broke loose outside his office. People shouted and ran around in all directions. Nick flew to his feet and flung his door open. "What's going on?" Foster turned to him, stopping in her tracks. Her face was noticeably pale. "There's a gunman at the middle school." "What?" He leaned against the doorway, unable to breathe. It had to be a joke. 2 of his 3 kids were at the middle school. "There have been shots. It's all hands on deck. Other precincts are coming in with us." Nick shook his head and took a deep breath. "Meet me at your cruiser." She nodded, then ran down the hallway, darting between other officers. Nick ran around his office, grabbing everything he needed for an incident of this caliber. His mind raced. His hands shook. Thank God he was on the force and could go inside the building. He couldn't imagine being one of the parents forced to wait outside behind a yellow line. Were Parker and Ava safe? Had everything he'd ever taught them stuck with them? They'd always thought he was crazy for drilling them on how to respond in an emergency, but he knew all too well the dangers of the world, even living in a fairly small community. Nick hurried outside. Police cruisers were already fleeing the parking lot, sirens blazing. Foster pulled out of the parking spot before Nick had even closed his door. "We'll do everything we can," she assured him. Nick snapped his seatbelt into place. "Is Tinsley at school today?" "No." Foster turned on the lights and siren, then pulled onto the road. "She's in therapy all morning." "At least that's one less kid to worry about." "I can't imagine what more trauma would do to her. She's barely making progress as it is."